Welcome to the Unwritten Podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we are on a mission to help the world find more purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in because we are all on this journey of life together. Hello and welcome everybody to another solo episode, Unwritten, with your host, Thomas Malpass. It's kind of funny because today I'm going to talk about procrastination, and I was actually procrastinating doing this podcast. So it's kind of ironic that we're going to talk about procrastination today. But before we get started, support the show, please, and give an honest 5-star review, and share this episode, or any episodes for that matter, with anybody you think it would resonate with. Now, let's get right into the episode. First, what is procrastination? Well, according to research, procrastination is not a time management issue. Procrastination is actually caused by emotional, neuropsychological, and dopamine issues. I like to think of procrastination as when you know you need to do something, and if you're self-aware enough, you just keep pushing it off for some reason. And you have to keep asking yourself, why am I pushing this off? Why am I pushing this off? And there's a nice quote I heard on another podcast, and they said, you procrastinate because your results are about to exceed your identity. You procrastinate because your results are about to exceed your identity. So what does this mean? Whatever you're procrastinating on, once you achieve that, afterwards, after the fact that you achieve whatever it is you achieve, when you finally get to that action that you've been procrastinating on, it will exceed who you are right now, today, if you're listening to this. So whatever that identity is that you're afraid of, or whatever emotional, neuropsychological issues that you're dealing with, you're gonna become that new identity, if that makes any sense. So how in the world do we stop procrastinating? Well, for me, sometimes I procrastinate when I'm not entirely sure what I have to do. So I knew I was procrastinating on this podcast because I had to research a topic, and I wasn't entirely sure what topic I wanted to talk about. And it wasn't until yesterday that I actually finally decided to go ahead and talk about procrastination. So sometimes it's a priority issue, but more often than not, again, it's an emotional, neuropsychological, or dopamine issue. Since I want to keep these solo podcast episodes less than 20 minutes, I'm going to give you guys 5 tips so we can beat procrastination together. Okay. So tip number 1. Since more often than not, procrastination is an emotional factor, procrastination can be beaten if you learn how to regulate your emotions properly. Dr. Tim Seikel, professor of psychology and a member of the procrastination research group at Carleton University in Ottawa, says negative moods associated with a task or aversion to doing a task can cause people to procrastinate. For example, if you think, I'm never going to get this done, or this is taking forever, or frustration, any negative mood associated with the task, it's going to cause you to just not do the task. And in a 2013 study, they found that procrastination is the primacy of short-term mood repair over the longer-term pursuit of intended actions. What this means in the short term is that procrastinating on a task actually relieves us of these negative feelings that we associate with the task that we're procrastinating on. This is a very meta podcast. So, in short, learn how to regulate your emotions associated with the task. Maybe instead of feeling frustration, feel grateful. Maybe instead of feeling like you're never going to get it done, break that task down into smaller steps. Or just straight up practice emotional regulation techniques, deep breathing exercises, go work out, go for a walk, get some sunlight. These all help regulate your mood and emotions. Tip number 2. Because procrastination can be a dopamine level issue, and for those of you that don't know, dopamine is the neurotransmitter that transmits chemicals into your brain that make you feel good. Think when you take that first sip of beer. Think when you just had an orgasm. Think when you just ate a piece of chocolate or ice cream. All of these senses release dopamine. So dopamine can give you a sense of pleasure and also gives you motivation to do something when you're seeking that pleasure. As humans, our brains are hardwired to seek behaviors that release dopamine. You go chat up a girl or a boy and you get into a relationship for what? It helps you release dopamine. Sex releases dopamine. Bonding, chemicals, oxytocin, these all help release dopamine in the long term. So when you're doing something too pleasurable too often and your brain releases a large amount of dopamine and you get that feel good feeling and you start to seek more of it, this can lead to addictive behaviors and addictive bad habits. And in turn, these addictive habits can cause us to procrastinate on the task that we actually want to accomplish. A great example of this dopamine release procrastination problem is when you have so much things going on that you may be addicted to. A good example is social media or your phone. You could be obsessively checking your phone and not realize that you're actually procrastinating. You could be doom scrolling and not realize 30 minutes have passed when you should have used that 30 minutes to do the task that you're procrastinating on. Tip number 3, hang or surround yourself with those living, breathing, and doing what you're procrastinating on. A great example is exercise. If you're overweight and you want to lose weight, go to the gym, hang out, make new friends with bodybuilders, make new friends with people who go to the gym every day or 5 times a week. When you start to surround yourself with people already doing the thing that you're procrastinating on, you will naturally develop a habit to do the thing and not procrastinate on anymore. Next tip, get comfortable letting go of perfection and the lack of certainty. You can only be as prepared as you can be, and then you must take action. I'll say that again. We procrastinate because we have an idea that something needs to be perfect, right? So when you get comfortable letting go of that perfection and lack of certainty of the unknown, you can and understand that you can only be prepared as you can be. There's only so much preparation you can do before you have to take action. You have to do something. Take that first step. And finally, give yourself the grace, love, and self-compassion for yourself to step into this new identity. You might be afraid because you don't know who's this new person that you're becoming. For example, I never knew I was going to be a podcaster, but I started to do it, fall in love with the process, fall in love with this new person that I've become, despite all the work and hours it takes to develop a podcast all by yourself. You have to be willing and able and give yourself the grace and self-compassion and love to step into that new identity, the new version of yourself, that new version that lets go and gets shit done. And that's it, guys. I could go on and on about procrastination. I could read you all the research, but if you're listening to this podcast and you're procrastinating, I'm telling you, step into that new identity. Learn how to regulate your emotions. Let go of that perfectionism and go out and get shit done. And as always, guys, stay curious. Keep going. You got this. I believe in you. Peace.